This is the story of a child's toy, an antique porcelain doll, whose gentle, almost imperceptible whispers brought a lonely little girl immense joy, only to meticulously unravel her mind and drag her family into an abyss of chilling madness. It began innocently enough, as most horrors do, on a crisp autumn afternoon in 1987, when 7-year-old Lily Pritchard found herself alone in the vast, echoing attic of her grandmother's Victorian home. The air up there always smelled of dust and forgotten dreams, a peculiar mix of camphor and dried flowers that seemed to cling to the very fabric of time itself. Lily, a quiet, imaginative child, felt a strange kinship with the silent relics around her, each trunk and shadow holding a potential secret. It was tucked away in a cedar chest beneath yellowed lace and brittle silk that she first saw it, a doll unlike any other. Not the plastic, bright-eyed kind her friends played with, but something far older, far more ornate. Its face was a delicate canvas of painted porcelain, framed by tightly curled auburn hair that seemed almost impossibly real. Its dress, a faded blue velvet, was intricately stitched, suggesting a craftsmanship from a bygone era. She pulled it out, cradling it in her arms, feeling an immediate, inexplicable connection, and then a sound so faint she almost dismissed it as the house settling, or the rustle of the ancient curtains in a non-existent breeze, but it came again, a soft, almost melodic hum, like a distant lullaby, seeming to emanate directly from the doll. It was less a whisper, more a gentle sigh, but it was unmistakably there. Lily named her Clarabelle. The doll quickly became her constant companion, an almost seamless extension of her own quiet world. Clarabelle didn't just sit on a shelf, she participated. Lily would whisper secrets to the doll, confide her fears and hopes, and in return, she heard the softest, most comforting responses. These weren't audible words at first, not in a way an adult would perceive. It was more like a feeling, a warmth that bloomed in Lily's chest, accompanied by that faint, resonant hum that seemed to offer silent reassurance. Sometimes, when Lily felt lost or misunderstood, she'd press her ear to Clarabelle's ceramic chest and swear she heard a tiny, almost breathy whisper, "It's okay, little one. Clarabelle is here." It was a secret world, just for them, a bond forged in the quiet loneliness of a child's imagination. Her parents, busy with their own lives and the demands of their careers, saw only that Lily, who had been somewhat withdrawn since their recent move, was now happier, more engaged in her play. They dismissed the doll's constant presence as typical childhood attachment, a phase that would pass. What harm could a pretty, old doll do? They couldn't have known that the whispers were merely the prelude, the first delicate threads of a snare being meticulously woven. The whispers began to evolve. From comforting hums and soft reassurances, they started taking on a more defined shape. Not full sentences yet, but distinct, single words, always low, always just at the edge of audibility. "Pretty," Clarabelle would seem to murmur when Lily dressed her. "Mine," when Lily tried to share her with a fleeting playdate. These weren't innocent child's games anymore. Clarabelle seemed to react to Lily's emotions, her environment. If Lily was sad, a gentle, melancholic sigh would emanate from the doll. If Lily was excited, a faint, tinkling sound like tiny bells would accompany it. The doll had an uncanny way of knowing exactly what Lily needed to hear or what she wanted to believe. Lily started spending almost all her time with Clarabelle. Other toys were abandoned, books lay unread, and even her usually beloved pet kitten, Patches, found himself ignored. It was a subtle shift at first, easily overlooked, just a child absorbed in her play. But the intensity of Lily's attachment grew, becoming an almost obsessive devotion. She started sleeping with Clarabelle in her arms every night, refusing to be separated from the doll, even for a moment. The true chilling nature of the whispers became evident when Clarabelle started offering advice. Innocent enough, at first, "Don't eat the broccoli, Lily. It tastes funny." Or, "Tell mommy you're tired so you don't have to clean your room." These were the small, everyday rebellions of childhood, amplified by an unseen influence. Lily, who had always been a compliant, well-behaved child, began exhibiting unusual defiance. Her parents, bewildered by this sudden shift, attributed it to growing pains or a phase. They tried to reason with her, but Lily would simply clamp her lips shut, her eyes wide and almost distant, as if she were listening to something they couldn't hear, and she often was. One afternoon, Lily's mother, Sarah, found her daughter in the kitchen, carefully prying open a jar of homemade jam, a task usually forbidden due to the risk of broken glass. "Lily, what are you doing?" Sarah asked, her voice laced with surprise and a touch of irritation. Lily didn't flinch, she just mumbled. "Clarabelle said it would taste like sunshine. She said you wouldn't mind if I just had a little." A cold shiver ran down Sarah's spine. The words themselves were innocent, but the delivery, the way Lily had blamed the doll, was unsettling. It was the first time Clarabelle's influence had actively led Lily to do something she knew she shouldn't. If you've ever felt a chill from an object that seemed too old, too silent, too knowing, then you understand the magnetic, unsettling pull of history this story embodies. Perhaps you have your own tales of objects that carried more than just memories. Share them below, and let us, at the Unseen Archive, know if you've ever felt the whispers of the past. The whispers became directives. Clarabelle began instructing Lily in increasingly peculiar ways. "Hide your father's car keys, Lily. He needs to stay home with you." Or, "Don't talk to that new boy at school. He has mean eyes." Lily's once sunny disposition began to cloud over with suspicion and secrecy. She became withdrawn from her friends, avoiding school activities, her world shrinking to the confines of her home and the constant companionship of Clarabelle. Her parents, John and Sarah, grew increasingly concerned. Lily's teachers reported a drastic decline in her engagement, a new tendency to stare blankly into space, sometimes muttering to herself. When questioned, Lily would always reply, "Clarabelle told me." The doll, once a source of comfort, now seemed to exert an insidious control. John, a pragmatic man of science, scoffed at the idea of a doll talking. "It's a child's vivid imagination, Sarah. She's creating an imaginary friend to cope with the move. We need to get her professional help." Sarah, however, couldn't shake the unease she felt. There was something in Lily's eyes, a vacant knowingness that went beyond simple make-believe. One evening, things escalated dramatically. John found Lily in her room, cutting up old family photographs with a pair of tiny scissors, meticulously excising the faces of her parents from cherished memories. "Lily, what on earth are you doing?" he demanded, his voice sharp with shock and anger. Lily didn't look up, her small fingers deftly working. "Clarabelle said they aren't real. She said they were fake." "Only Clarabelle is real." John snatched the scissors from her hand, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and rage. He looked at Clarabelle, sitting primly on Lily's pillow, its porcelain face serene, those glassy eyes seeming to mock him. A visceral, irrational surge of hatred for the doll welled up within him. This was not normal. This was not imagination. This was something deeply, profoundly wrong. He knew then that something had to be done about that doll. The toy that had brought his daughter so much initial joy was now poisoning her mind. The first attempt to remove Clarabelle was met with a terrifying resistance. John, determined to break the doll's hold, marched into Lily's room and declared, "That doll is going away, Lily. You're spending too much time with it." Lily, normally so meek, transformed. She let out a piercing scream, unlike anything they had ever heard from her, a sound raw with fury and terror. She latched onto Clarabelle with surprising strength, her small body trembling violently. "No, you can't. She's mine. Clarabelle hates you. She says you're trying to take me away." Her words were punctuated by furious kicks and desperate clawing. John, momentarily stunned by his daughter's ferocity, hesitated. As he reached for the doll, a strange guttural growl seemed to emanate from Clarabelle itself, a sound so unnatural, so deep, that it froze him. The air in the room grew heavy, a sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature making his breath mist. He recoiled, shaken, unsure if what he'd heard was real or a trick of his own frayed nerves. Sarah, rushing in at Lily's screams, found a scene of utter chaos, her daughter hysterical, John pale and disoriented, and the doll Clarabelle seemingly radiating a malevolent stillness. They couldn't take her, not yet. The house itself began to feel different. A palpable tension settled within its walls. Objects would inexplicably move. Doors would creak open and shut with no draft. Lights would flicker. Lily's parents tried to rationalize it all away. Old house quirks, faulty wiring, their own overactive imaginations fueled by stress. But these rationalizations felt increasingly flimsy against the backdrop of Lily's deteriorating state. She spoke less and less to them, her conversations almost entirely reserved for Clarabelle. Her words became strange, cryptic, repeating phrases that didn't make sense, fragments of archaic language they couldn't place. Sometimes she would stare intently at blank walls, giggling at unseen things, then turn to Clarabelle and whisper conspiratorially, "They don't understand, do they? Clarabelle knows. Clarabelle always knows." The joy was utterly gone from her eyes, replaced by an unsettling, almost predatory glint. It was clear now, Clarabelle wasn't just influencing Lily, she was consuming her slowly, relentlessly, from the inside out. Desperate, Sarah secretly consulted a local priest, Father Michael, a kind elderly man known for his practical advice and deep faith. She told him everything, omitting no detail of the doll's origins, the whispers, Lily's transformation, and the strange occurrences in their home. Father Michael listened patiently, his brow furrowed with concern. He didn't dismiss her outright. He spoke of attachments, of spiritual disturbances, of entities that sometimes cling to objects, particularly those with a history, those made with intention. He gave her a small crucifix and blessed water, advising her to place the crucifix in Lily's room and sprinkle the water around the doll, praying for protection. He stressed the importance of faith, of light, in countering darkness. Sarah returned home, a sliver of hope rekindled, but also a deep fear that they were treading into territory far beyond their understanding. This wasn't about a child's psychology anymore. It felt like a battle for Lily's very soul. The crucifix didn't help, or perhaps it provoked. The night Sarah placed the small silver cross on Lily's bedside table, a chilling incident occurred. Sarah woke to a violent shaking of her bed, convinced it was an earthquake. John, however, slept soundly beside her. She sat bolt upright, heart pounding, listening. From Lily's room, she heard not screams, but a low guttural chanting, unmistakably Lily's voice, but distorted, alien, speaking in that same archaic tongue. Mingled with the chanting was a sound like tiny, mocking laughter, high-pitched and cold, seeming to come from multiple points in the room at once. Driven by a primal fear, Sarah rushed to Lily's room. The door was ajar. Inside, Lily was sitting upright in bed, eyes wide open, but utterly blank, as if possessed. Her arms were raised, Clarabelle clutched tight, and the crucifix lay shattered on the floor, its silver pieces scattered. The room was icy cold, and a putrid smell, like decaying meat, filled the air. Sarah screamed, a raw, terrified sound that finally jolted John awake. When the world around you unravels, and reality itself seems to bend to an unseen will, it's natural to feel isolated, to wonder if you're the only one experiencing such profound disturbance. Remember, exploring these dark corners, these untold tales, is what we do here. If you find yourself drawn to the mysteries that defy easy explanation, consider subscribing to the Unseen Archive. Your journey into the extraordinary is just beginning. After that night, John and Sarah knew they could no longer ignore the supernatural element. They sought out Dr. Evelyn Reed, a renowned parapsychologist recommended by Father Michael, known for her skeptical yet open-minded approach to such phenomena. Dr. Reed arrived at their home a week later, a woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and a calm demeanor that instantly put Sarah slightly at ease. She spent hours observing Lily, who by now rarely spoke, responding only to Clarabelle's silent directives, her eyes following unseen commands. Dr. Reed noted the doll's unusually intricate design, its apparent age, and the almost magnetic pull it exerted over Lily. She brought specialized equipment, EMF meters, temperature sensors, audio recorders designed to pick up infrasound. During her observations, she confirmed several anomalous readings, inexplicable cold spots, spikes in electromagnetic fields around the doll, and faint, almost imperceptible whispers on the audio recordings. Sounds that mimicked human speech, but lacked any clear linguistic structure, like static given malevolent intent. She concluded, with a gravity that chilled them to the bone, that the doll was indeed a conduit for something deeply malevolent, something that had latched onto Lily with frightening determination. Dr. Reed believed the entity within Clarabelle thrived on isolation and fear, slowly severing Lily's connections to the outside world, making her entirely dependent on its malevolent guidance. The doll, she explained, was likely a vessel, perhaps enchanted or cursed during its creation or by previous owners, accumulating dark energy over decades. Its porcelain facade, so innocent on the surface, concealed a history far more sinister. The whispers, which had started as comforting sounds, were psychological manipulations, designed to gain trust, to erode the child's sense of self, and to slowly indoctrinate her into its twisted reality. Lily, in her innocence and loneliness, had been the perfect target. The transformation from joy to madness wasn't a sudden break, but a meticulous, calculated dismantling of her spirit, piece by painful piece. The goal, Dr. Reed surmised, was complete possession, a full merging of the child's essence with the entity, effectively erasing Lily and replacing her with something else entirely. The final confrontation was inevitable. Dr. Reed, with Father Michael's spiritual guidance, devised a plan. They decided a ritual of exorcism and cleansing was necessary, focusing not just on the doll, but on the entire house, and most importantly, on Lily herself. The night they chose was a storm-swept Tuesday, the wind howling outside matching the turmoil within. John and Sarah, weary but resolute, prepared for what felt like a battle for their daughter's very soul. Lily, clutching Clarabelle, sat rigid on her bed, her eyes blazing with an eerie light, a low, constant murmur emanating from her lips, as if conversing with an invisible force. As Father Michael began his prayers, his voice strong and clear, the atmosphere in the room grew suffocating. The air thickened, heavy with a palpable malevolence. Clarabelle's porcelain face seemed to contort, its painted smile twisting into a silent scream. The whispers intensified, no longer gentle, but a cacophony of hissing, hateful sounds swirling around Lily, trying to drown out the priest's words. The full force of the entity lashed out. Lights exploded, furniture crashed. A violent tremor shook the room, as if the very foundations of the house were under attack. Lily shrieked, a primal, agonized sound as if caught between two warring forces. Her small body convulsed, throwing her back against the headboard, Clarabelle still clutched in her hands. The doll itself seemed to hum with dark energy, its glassy eyes appearing to glow with a malevolent red light. Dr. Reed, unflinching, held an EMF meter to the doll, and its reading spiked beyond anything she had ever witnessed, screaming a warning of raw, untamed power. Father Michael, drenched in sweat, continued his prayers, his voice unwavering, occasionally splashing holy water towards Lily and the doll. Each drop seemed to sizzle on Clarabelle's ceramic, accompanied by a chilling hiss. It was a terrifying display, a raw manifestation of pure, unadulterated evil fighting for its dominion. John and Sarah could only watch, helpless, praying, as their daughter became the battleground for something ancient and deeply dark. The climax was sudden and brutal. As Father Michael reached a crescendo in his prayers, holding the crucifix high, a searing light seemed to emanate from it, striking Clarabelle. The doll let out a single, piercing shriek, a sound that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality itself. Its head snapped back with an audible crack, and then, in a horrifying display, its porcelain face began to crack, spider webbing outwards from the eyes, like a shattering mirror. A thick, inky black smoke, acrid and foul, poured from the fissures in its face, swirling violently, then dissipating into nothingness. With a final, agonizing gasp, Lily went limp, dropping Clarabelle to the floor. The doll lay shattered, its once beautiful face now a grotesque mask of broken ceramic and hollow eyes. The oppressive chill in the room vanished, replaced by a profound, almost dizzying stillness. The malevolent presence was gone. Lily was rushed to the hospital, gravely ill. The doctors found no physical injuries, but her mind was fractured. She lay in a semi-catatonic state for weeks, muttering incoherent phrases, sometimes reliving the terror in her eyes. It was a long, arduous road to recovery, requiring years of therapy, medication, and the unwavering love and patience of her parents. Slowly, painstakingly, Lily began to reclaim fragments of her former self, but the child who emerged was forever changed. The joy that Clarabelle had initially promised was a distant memory, replaced by a lingering shadow, a profound vulnerability to fear and anxiety. She never spoke of the doll, or the whispers, or the events of that terrible night. It was as if a part of her had been irrevocably severed, leaving a scar no one could see. The doll itself, what remained of it, was locked away by Dr. Reed for further study, its shattered pieces held in a lead-lined box, forever silent. She hoped to understand the true nature of the entity it harbored, but the answers remained elusive, just whispers in the archives of the unknown. The echoes of such stories linger, don't they? They remind us that some truths are too unsettling to fully grasp, some evils too subtle to confront directly. If this chilling journey into the shadowed corners of human experience has left you questioning what truly lies beneath the surface of the mundane, a simple like on this video helps us continue to open these forbidden files. It tells us that these whispers from the past still hold power for you. John and Sarah eventually moved from that house, unable to bear the ghosts of what had transpired within its walls. They bought a smaller, newer home, stripped of any history, hoping to build new, untainted memories with Lily. But the experience had fundamentally altered them too. Sarah became fiercely protective of Lily, her once practical nature giving way to a deep, almost superstitious caution. John, the steadfast man of science, found his worldview irrevocably shaken, forced to confront the existence of phenomena that defied all logical explanation. He became quieter, more contemplative, often staring into the middle distance as if still trying to make sense of the incomprehensible. The story of Clarabelle became their silent burden, a secret they carried, a testament to the fact that evil doesn't always wear a monstrous face. Sometimes it hides behind painted smiles and delicate porcelain. It taught them that true horror isn't just about what you see, but what you feel, what you hear, and most terrifyingly, what you allow to whisper into the innocent ears of a lonely child. And sometimes, those whispers, once invited in, never truly leave. They simply fade into the background, waiting for the next ear, the next moment of vulnerability, ready to begin their slow, meticulous dance of destruction anew. The doll was destroyed, yes, but the question remained, was the entity truly vanquished, or merely displaced, a wandering shadow seeking a new vessel, a new child to lure with the promise of joy, only to deliver madness? It's a chilling thought that lingers long after the echoes of the screams have faded, leaving us to wonder just how many such unseen archives are still waiting to be opened.